Would you listen to this?
When you have
Of
these
course.
blanket progressive ideas, you've attached yourself to an ideology, and that ideology you'll defend because it's your identity. It's you. It's who you are.
Wait a minute. Has nobody told Joe that he's been captured by an ideology? What kind of friends does this guy have? I bet I can watch just half a show and catch him repeating several ideological maxims. Let's see.
From the Heritage Foundation to Joe Rogan's lips.
Here goes one.
What's probably going to do is it's probably going to lead to some sort of a Republican government there. There's probably going to be a lot of backlash. People are probably going to organize. They're probably going to realize that you can't have communism, and it'll swing the other way.
Yep, that's classic right-wing dogma. Social programs that help people with limited means is communism, and it's going to ruin everything. And here's another one. He also moved the goalpost from doing a good job to doing an amazing job mid-thought.
You can't just tax your way out of problems because we know that money goes, and it's grossly inefficient what they do with it. The government is not good at using your money. They've never been good. There's not like one example of the government doing an amazing job with your money.
Another classic from the lips of billionaire Republicans. The government is incompetent and corrupt. Joe sounds just like a shill. Here's just one example of the government doing something amazing with tax dollars. Since 1994, the U.S. Vaccines for Children program has covered the cost of vaccines for children whose families might not otherwise be able to afford them. Among children born between 1994 and 2023, routine childhood vaccinations will have prevented approximately 508 million cases of illness, 32 million hospitalizations, and 1.129 million deaths. This results in a direct savings of $540 billion and a societal savings of $2.7 trillion. Pretty amazing. And I know Joe wouldn't like that example because he's an anti-vax weirdo, but it's true. And then here's another piece of right-wing elitist doctrine. Joe reflexively comes to the defense of the world's richest man, Elon Musk.
Yeah, but what she's saying is crazy. Like taking 30% of whatever you make. That's nuts. So if you make $1 billion a year, if you're Elon Musk or whoever it is, you have to pay 30%.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
It's an instinct with him to say this. Above all else, we must protect Elon's money. And this part is funnier than it sounds, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. But for now, all I want you to know is that this is just another thing that Joe has been programmed to repeat. Taxing billionaires not fair because, lot of money. And finally, Joe hits a classic.
Because everyone's kind of leaving, right? All the people with money are leaving New York.
People are leaving New York.
So they're saying like...
Fucking Robert De Niro was talking about it.
Whoa. He's like the king of New York.
Tax his savings. Find out if that's accurate.
But also...
Often repeated, but historically this one has shown to be more of a bluff than a serious threat. But you know, maybe one day Louis Vuitton really will move their operation to Wyoming to avoid taxes. Before we go any further, I must ask that you please support the channel by liking, subscribing, commenting, and becoming a member through the Patreon link in the description. Thank you very much.
Joe Rogan, the Ideologue.
Whether Joe knows it or not, he regularly repeats mantras that the ultra-wealthy have been systematically pumping into the ears of Americans for centuries, and especially since the 1970s. And that makes Joe just another sucker among the millions of suckers who asked the billionaire class, what's the best way to run a government and manage an economy? And then they swallowed it whole when the billionaire class answered, the wealthy should pay fewer taxes because taxing everyone equally is immoral. And furthermore, the government, which appears to be trying to protect the working class with laws and regulations, is actually a bunch of fools and thieves trying to enslave you with its collectivist ideas. The oligarch went on to say, if you really want to exercise your freedom as an individualist, you'll be grateful that you have the privilege of earning a modest wage at one of our many colossal corporations. And remember, as you toil daily, it might upset you to watch your betters turn your labor into super yachts, mega mansions, private jets, toy rockets, and political influence. But don't forget, if you try to raise our taxes in an attempt to even out the distribution of wealth, we'll leave town and take your job with us. And there will be nothing you can do about it because there isn't any way for a large group of people to work together and sustain themselves without a baron from the moneyed class lording over them and taking an outsized portion of the produced value for themselves. And if you don't believe us, well then, sir, you are a red rat communist who doesn't deserve to take part in the great and throbbing American system of production and profit.
The Tycoon Intelligentsia.
In the 1960s, the American aristocracy was going through a rough patch. Pro-labor and anti-segregation laws were being passed, and it had become widely accepted that the government had an obligation to reduce inequality. That led to things like higher education being free in many places. So poor people, including blacks and women, were becoming well educated in subjects like economics, business, civics, and political science. And poor people empowering themselves through education is, of course, the natural enemy of concentrated power and wealth. And then, in 1964, the oligarchs took a hit when, with the backing of industrialists, oil tycoons, and the John Birch Society, far-right hopeful Barry Goldwater ran for president and was annihilated by progressive Lyndon B. Johnson and Johnson's plan for a great society. Goldwater's campaign platform? Reduce the size of government programs like public education, social security, and healthcare, and then increase the funding for the military, which often functions as a wealth and power security apparatus. Goldwater also wanted to cut taxes, especially for corporations and the wealthy, and he fear-mongered about communism infiltrating America through social welfare programs and the media. Sounds familiar, yes?
Yes.
Fast forward, it's the 1970s and the empire strikes back. Spurred on by a memo written by big tobacco lawyer and segregation advocate Lewis Powell, American oligarchs with names like Mellon, Coors, and Koch dried their tears and formed the Tycoon Intelligentsia by funding think tanks with names like the American Enterprise Institute, the Cato Institute, and the Heritage Foundation. Their goal was simple. They wanted to control the courts so they could control policy. And to control the courts, you had to get the right candidates with the right ideology elected. And to get the right candidate elected, they began to flood academia, media, and culture with corporate propaganda. The intelligentsia produced and distributed reams of pseudo-intellectual papers, which all said the same things. That it's not fair to tax the wealthy at the same rate as everyone else. Spending tax money on social programs and social welfare is communism. The free market can do anything better than the incompetent government can. And that, in general, wealthy people and their corporations are the country's most valuable assets. And you might be noticing by now that that is all the shit that Joe just said, and that is because Joe has been captured by the most successful and well-funded ideological influence machine to ever exist in America.
Tax the rich. How about
Yes.
fuck off?
The Tycoon Intelligentsia's propaganda machine has brought us to the point where roughly 22 million people spend more than 50% of their monthly income on housing. Another 500,000 people file for bankruptcy every year because of medical debt, and roughly 14 million children live in food-insecure households. This often means having to skip meals or eating less nutritious food. And it also means that parents will skip meals so their kids can eat. And then, on the other side of the equation, 9 of the 10 richest people on Earth live and operate out of the United States. 8 of the 10 most valuable companies in the world, including the top 5, are American. Not to mention, we are also on our way to producing the world's first trillionaire. And if you're wondering what the finish line looks like for the tycoons who fund these think tanks, like when will they say, okay, we've got our fill, let's cool it and spread the love a little bit, I recommend reading or rereading The Jungle by Upton Sinclair for a detailed description of the world these tycoons are trying to take us back to. Spoiler alert, you, your spouse, and your children are all going to work every day while living hand to mouth in squalor until the sudden appearance of death finally sets you free, and you will definitely be dying young.
What triggered Joe's dogmatic response?
Let's look at how Joe got on the topic. Joe plays this clip of newly appointed director of the New York City Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants, Sia Weaver.
What I am envisioning is a world in which the housing is owned by a collective and people are paying 30% of their income in order to live in their housing. If your income is zero, you pay zero. If your income is $500,000 a year, you're paying 30% of that. And the government is providing the government is the sort of owner, or not even the owner. The government doesn't have to be the owner, but the government is what's making sure all of that sort of works in cash flows.
The debt to GDP ratio right now is the highest since World War II. So how can the federal government also afford to start subsidizing rental housing costs?
The federal government prints money. The federal government can provide money for them.
So it's by printing money.
Sure.
And this is already evidence that the intelligentsia is pulling Joe's strings. Because why does he even know who this lady is? He's not from New York, and yet now he knows the name of an appointee in the mayor's office? I mean, does he even know who's in charge of housing in the city he lives in, Austin, Texas? Hell, I would be surprised if he even knows the name of the mayor of Austin. The reason he knows who Sia Weaver is because the right-wing media arm, which of course is funded by the tycoons and informed by the intelligentsia, has been telling Joe and Joe's guest Whitney all about the radical, socialist, leftist, wokey, communist Sia Weaver in New York. And because Joe and Whitney are both trapped in the web of well-financed and fine-tuned propaganda, they've come together 3 days after Sia was all over the news, and they have very strong feelings about her. Yet they struggle to convert those emotions into cogent thoughts that they can articulate. Let's see what Joe's got to say about a person he's clearly been programmed to believe is dumb and crazy.
So it's by printing money.
Sure.
That's her idea. Print money. The federal government print money to provide housing, jack up interest rates, jack up the fucking debt, print money to provide housing, and everyone pays 30% for housing.
Joe responded to two things that she said. The first is that the government prints money all the time. And even though Joe claims he likes to steelman arguments, this time he doesn't do it.
Gotta absolutely know what this person thinks. Don't attack it. Don't twist it around. Don't distort it. You have to kind of steelman it. You have to be as charitable to that position as possible.
Joe tries to take her literally, but he doesn't know what he's talking about, so now I have to try to steelman Joe in order to steelman Sia. Man, Sia. That's funny.
Jack up interest rates. Jack up the fucking debt.
Joe definitely means lower interest rates, not raise them. And lowering interest rates could lead to an expansion of the money supply. But the Fed messing with interest rates isn't going to lead to government-subsidized housing. But the second part, jacking up the debt, is more what Sia's talking about. Borrowing money by selling treasuries to fund social programs can lead to monetary expansion. And the government does that all the time because when people in the government decide they want to do something, they do it, no matter the cost. When the government wants to loan Argentina $20 billion, it finds the money. When tariffs led to trade wars that put farmers on the brink of collapse, the government found $12 billion in its pocket and saved the farmers. When the government wanted to increase the military budget to over $1 trillion a year, they did that shit. And when the government wants more shrouded goons in urban areas using federal authority to detain whoever they want, they add $90 billion to the budget. No problem. So what Sia is saying is true. When the government wants to spend, it finds a way. And in her case, she wants them to spend it on her thing, which is what we all want.
A loyal dog always barks.
This next part is my favorite. Listen to how deeply the Tycoon Intelligentsia has embedded itself into Joe's mind. He hears Sia talking about some kind of rent-controlled government building, and all Joe hears is something about everyone pays 30% and his programming makes him glitch out.
Yeah, but what she's saying is crazy. Like taking 30% of whatever you make. That's nuts. So if you make $1 billion a year, if you're Elon Musk or whoever it is, you have to pay 30%.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
The thing about
How dare you try to take Elon's precious money? What a knob, dude. He sounds like a fucking parrot. I mean, that's not even close to what she was talking about. Sadly, I couldn't find the full interview she did with Reason because the original piece they produced was highly edited. So we can't get any context, but it's pretty obvious that she was talking about government housing where rent is based on income, and that's not even a new idea. Residential buildings that are subsidized by the government to facilitate a sliding scale rent system already exist all over the US, Europe, and Asia and are largely considered successful. And the reason Sia is advocating for a 30% ceiling is because over half of New York renters pay more than that, with a whopping 32% of all renters paying 50% or more of their household income on rent every month, which leaves them short for other basics like food, transportation, and medical expenses. But it's definitely safe to say that Elon Musk won't be living in one of these buildings, Joe, because he could buy all the residential property in Brooklyn and still have $100 billion in the bank, fool. Even Joe's Looney Tune guest Whitney gets it.
And landlords that
she's
are
basically
assholes.
saying government housing.
That's exactly right, Whitney. She's talking about government housing. And by the way, if you want to get a feel for what goes on in the mind of one of these chronically online red-pilled or black-pilled or whatever fucking pill she's on, you should get a load of Whitney Cummings. This lady talks like she scrolls past her thoughts before she finishes reading them.
They can't sit in a classroom and watch some pedophile lecture them on fake history while they're getting hemorrhoids. We found the ventilators actually
In COVID, they
harmed
killed
people.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how many elephants kill their trainers a year. I was as liberal. I had blue hair, you guys. I actually, in some ways, feel like you might be smarter if you forget half the shit you know, because half the shit we learned has been debunked anyway. Like half of science and history is not even. So me unknowing it might even make me smarter.
So even Looney Whitney understands it better than Joe, and that's because Joe is so completely marinated in ideology. All he can do is call Sia crazy and a wokey and a commie, all while defending the billionaire overlords, just like the Tycoon Intelligentsia programmed him to do. That's it. This channel needs your support. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and join the fight by following the Patreon link in the description and becoming a globalist for life. My name is Greb Kared, your ally in the fight against disinformation.
Oh,